thevoicebeforethevoid.net. A Ghost Town Bike Tour by Celeste Inez Mathilde. Read by The Voice Before the Void. Prose poetic nonfiction. Explorations of humanless homes and musings on the death, or at least decay, of rurality. A tour. A roundabout of an area. A loop sightseeing exploration. A journey from place to place. By bicycle. Because one can. Because bikes are inconspicuous, easy to stash, easy to fix, quiet, and slow enough to let you really look at the places you're passing through. Ghosts are things that no longer belong, but linger. They are incomplete, not entirely there, sometimes skeletons, at times translucent or almost entirely invisible. They are reminders. They are not yet able to rest. Maybe their lingering implies that something, somehow, has gone wrong. Ghost towns, or ghost farms, ghost homesteads, are wooden, leaning ghosts, the disturbed, disturbing remains of an existence not yet resigned to being entirely historical, but already mostly abandoned. They are still in the place they have always been in. They are out of place. Is it their out-of-placeness that makes them so eerie? On houses that are ghosts. When abandoned, buildings become organic. A new, earthy, soft carpet is forming as the fallen ceiling plaster mixes with the dust, with the rain, with decaying wood. It grows green or black. Light slides in between the rafters in the attic. We find the sunniest kitchen, brighter than it was while lived in, because the roof has fallen through onto the floor. A hot breeze passes through the glassless windows, through the open doors, right through the walls, as if the house is barely there at all. The outside moves in. The inside crumbles and exposes itself. Ghost homes are disputed territory. A no-man's land between civilization and nature. Nature is not bubbling brooks, not leafy meadows or twittering birds. Nature is hard and unsympathetic, and in this way, it is also majestic. Animals are not cute. They are ruthless, unpredictable. Creatures of all kinds shit on everything, move in. The few remaining personal items are slowly devoured, turned to dirt. Civilization is not cleanliness and order. We unconsciously hold our breath at peeling paint, lead, and crumbling walls, asbestos. We discover empty or not cans of pesticide, herbicide, rat poison, bullet holes, unidentifiable chemical containers tossed into the corner of a kitchen pantry. We find a house offering the corpses of swallows, sprawled in their nests in various states of decay. A mouse, as though sleeping, but dead. Honeycombs, the hard work of bees, smashed. The weeds have reclaimed the yard, but there is still broken glass, rusted metal, toxins hidden within it. Civilization and nature, especially when at war with each other, are both violent. The transition from one to the other is not clean or cute. We did not come here to have a picnic. The roof sags, the walls weaken. The basement fills with rank, dark water. The green that reclaims the yard is not prairie grass, but weeds, thistles, stinging nettles. Stagnant water pools in the yard, thickens. 1,000 flies buzz, roar, like the soundtrack to a psychological horror film. There are only the smallest fragments left of the things that usually fill houses. A scrap of purple carpet, one small curtain in the dirt on the floor. A single coat hanger hangs in a bathroom. One house has a dresser. One offers a child's storybook. One, a single boot in the basement. A lone table in the kitchen, fallen to its knees. More so than the general emptiness of such places, these lone objects emphasize the fact that these houses are no longer homes. In St. Elizabeth, 3 houses and a church remain. On the other side of the street, a sidewalk lingers, leading nowhere. There is a buzzing sound. Flies, bees. The houses rotting, buried in weeds. The church is not used, but is visited now and then. Clean, but musty. A hole has been punched through the divider in the confession booth. On a windowsill, a tiny Virgin Mary statue supports a spider web. A fly dangles below her outstretched right hand. In Snowflake, we arrive hoping for a cafe, expecting at least to get some water. The town's welcome sign is unreadable. The street signs are old, wooden, worn almost blank. There are 8 or 10 houses. A girl is mowing a lawn on the far side of town. We knock on a door to ask for water. Meet silence. At the post office, the elderly employee gives us water that she's brought from her well out on the farm. We ask if she knows how many people live in Snowflake. Well, I can tell you. She pauses. We wait. 3. Well, 3.5, I guess. There's one goes away in winter. This, I think, is what a town is like just before it becomes a ghost town. On farmsteads. We stumble upon 3 or 4 farmsteads as we travel from one place to another. Most have an old house without its contents. Out the back, rickety sheds and chicken shacks. Lovely, shapely old dead trucks out in the grass. Inside houses, hints of linoleum under the dirt. A dresser, a table, a tin can. We test stairs to second floors and ascend gently to find the empty bedrooms. Guess at the former occupants by the shreds of wallpaper or the color of the flaking paint. Take in the view from the window while imagining being maybe a little kid or a teenager in maybe the 40s or 60s. One farmstead has a barn full of smashed, filthy household things. Chair, blender, percolator, kitschy cheap wall art. But there is no house. A sidewalk angles across the grass from the barn to where the house probably was. In the depths of the barn is some kind of bright green sports car from the 60s or 70s, crumpled and shot full of bullet holes. A shack with a view. Overlooking a nice little valley, right on the edge. Actually, part of it had tumbled over the edge. It was the size of a large bathroom. It was leaning at an amazing angle. It still had things in it. A broken chair, bed springs, a sack, a nice old suitcase. I imagined an old hermit out there, enjoying the solitude and the simplicity of life. I imagined a big farmhouse being maybe just over that ridge, this little shack being inhabited by a series of train-hopping migrant workers in the dirty 30s. In country churches and one-room schools. No one does these things in the country anymore. With cars around, church and school are reasons to go to the city, or at least to town. One church was being used to shelter livestock, but still had its elegant pressed aluminum ceiling tiles. The old school had been taken over by bees. The walls were full of them. We slowly, fearfully peered in the front door. The humming got louder as we poked our heads into the main room. Clouds of bees. Around the hole that led to their home, they rested on the wall, spreading in every direction. In cemeteries. We passed the Norwegian cemetery, the Icelandic cemetery. We stopped during the hot parts of the days and ate lunch beneath their ancient swaying coniferous trees. I tried to imagine coming from Norway or Iceland and ending up here. The flat, dry, open space. Grasshoppers. Grain dust, and the ominous buzzing of cicadas. But the cemetery was at the top of a slight hill, and the shade and the breeze there were cool, and otherworldly. We followed signs to an old cemetery, which turned out to be where a local family grazed their goats. The cemetery was no longer active. The family was annoyed. We lacked a solidly shared language. They struggled to use our English, but spoke to each other in something like German. Their dog was threatening. The goats were excited. We were confused. Was it a private cemetery? Why had there been signs? But we were invading their space. We apologized and left. On small farms, the death of small farms, and the death of the farming community. Ghost farmsteads are a lingering point between how we used to farm and how we farm now. Farming has not undergone a transition from the idyllic natural to the unnatural. Let it be clear that farming, especially commercial farming, has long been a chemical and mechanical affair. However, farming has undergone a transition from the small, family-run, from the local, from community-based farming to corporate, accessorized, contracted, branded farming. We pass signs encouraging farmers to enlist the assistance of a crop management specialist. Fields are decorated with signs proclaiming the brand of the chemicals used on it, or the trademarked seed planted in it, in the same way that every consumer product you buy has a logo on it somewhere. The abandonment of farmsteads, the disappearance of farming communities, is strongly tied to the increasing corporatization and globalization of farming. Small, family-run farms are an increasingly rare phenomenon. Cars and highway travel have also enabled farmers to move to the nearest town or city and commute to and from the land they work, rather than living on that land or in a small community nearby. The arrival of railroads and highways has also sealed the fate of some small towns. Many disappeared just after the turn of the last century, when these new pathways weren't put near them. Some towns that were lucky enough to get the railroad disappeared in the mid-20th century, when the railways were amalgamated into CP and CN, and local rail service stopped in many areas that weren't on the main line. Small farms are sold because they don't have the resources or scale to compete with bigger corporate farms. And because, in an increasingly urbanized world, the next generation are often more interested in moving to a city and getting some other job there than staying to work the farm. So, it seems that these places slowly slide away from the present. The husks of homes are still there, perhaps embodying the love that folks had for their own little places. Small places, where people worked together and worked hard to survive. Or maybe embodying the isolation and lack of support when things, crops, health, relationships, went badly. maybe some of that hard wind that shakes down the shingles and weakens these tired old frames are from the unhappy people who lived there, bitterly trying to erase the last few reminders. Or maybe that rattling sound is someone trying to get your attention, to tell you somehow about the spirit of their neighbors and sisters, and how they got everyone together and had a great time now and then, and how much they helped each other, about walking across the field on a warm, breezy morning to visit a friend, feeling the sun on your skin. In these places now, I don't see ghouls or specters of the expected kind, but a home left humanless hints at so many memories, and a certain haunted clinging to a life already done living. These are the ghosts that one might find. Finally, seeing the decay and gradual disappearance of what was everything to someone reminds me that I, myself, am eventually going to be gone, and that I, too, have been here in this same place as them. And lo and behold, here are all the ghosts of those prairie folks. And here I might find my ghost among them. Find A Ghost Town Bike Tour and other works by Celeste Inez Mathilde at ofcourseYouCan.distro.com and ofcourseYouCan.etsy.com.